Europe meets with Zelenskyy and then tells its citizens to stockpile food and water to prepare for war. The UK bans ninja swords as Amsterdam suffers another mass stabbing. Elon raffles off millions in an attempt to get people to petition against activist judges. Trump readies to put 25% tariffs in place on imported cars, and China urges the US to stop being an international bully. AI has what many consider its biggest day ever. Rogan sparks debate with an anti-vax guest. And in Conspiracy Corner, Argentina is supposedly going to declassify documents to prove Hitler did indeed successfully escape Germany. Drew, the Europeans are taking Trump's behavior to mean that they really are going to have to take care of their own security, but telling people to stockpile food and water seems a wee bit extreme, in my opinion.
It's hilarious because everybody was like, oh, if U.S. goes to shit, I'm going to go to Europe. And now they're like, oh, Europe's going to shit, I'm coming back to the U.S. Canada's safe. Australia, y'all taking people? We need to find somewhere.
Man, it is, that was a very surprising headline. At first, I was like, there's no way to make sure that people see beyond the sensational headline. I think the takeaway here is we're going to have to be prepared to take care of ourselves. I don't know that there's a link between their meeting with Zelenskyy and this. But clearly in Europe, the big threat is Russia. So I don't know if there's a knock-on effect and they feel like we really have to go to bat for Zelenskyy, if the right way to read Europe's behavior is a 1-2 punch between America's not coming to save us, we have to have a totally different military strategy. And by the way, we feel like we really do have to back Zelenskyy because we think that Putin is territorial in nature, not that this is a response to NATO. I don't know how to read it, but I know that this is not de-escalatory.
Well, they have met, and their official commitment has been from the British Army, German Army, and French Army that they will stand with Ukraine. They're kind of doing it as a supporting countries initiative, so I don't think they're necessarily saying the EU is going to give Ukraine the security guarantees. I feel like they were trying to tiptoe around NATO and certain dialogue and certain usage, but French President Macron has said that they are stepping up to the plate. And then coincidentally, the European Commission then urged its citizens to stockpile for up to 72 hours just in case something happens, including climate change or disasters. It may be war, but climate change and disasters. So I'm not going to say they're connected, but it's convenient.
Yeah. This is, because this all plays out so slowly, it really is easy to get used to the fact that we're at this heightened level of alertness. But if you start looking at all the different chips that are on the table, you've got U.S. taking an aggressive America First posture, beginning to alienate many of their allies. You've got Russia and Ukraine still at war. You've got Israel and Gaza still at war. You've got bombs being dropped daily on the Houthis, which is an Iranian proxy. Things are not settling down. You've certainly got things heating up between the U.S. and China. China specifically calling out the U.S. And obviously this is after they said, we're here for any kind of war that you want to have. And now saying the U.S. is being a bully on the international stage. Everything just feels up in the air in a way that I don't love. Would be great to see things begin to calm down. But in a populist moment, that's not in the cards for me. I don't think that this gets better magically. This is going to hit maximum pain before people start backing off.
And just to kind of bookend your China bully comment, this is from the China MFA spokesperson. They tweeted, the U.S. spreads disinformation on so-called China's predatory practices to sow discord between China and other countries. Such malicious attempts will never succeed. Investment cooperation between China and the rest of the world is based on mutual respect, equality, and mutual benefit, openness and mutual accommodation, and win-win results. We respect the will of our partners, countries, and the cooperation greatly boosted their economic development, improves people's livelihood, and delivered tangibly to the local people. There's nothing to support the so-called debt trap narrative. The world can see clearly who exactly is being coercive and predatory. We urge the U.S. to reflect on what it has done to developing countries in Latin America and the Caribbean through bullying and predatory behavior, and stop vilifying China.
We're going to live through the moment, whether we want to or not. This is Thucydides's trap, everybody, happening in slow motion right before our very eyes. And the question is, what are going to be the off-ramps? And right now, I don't see off-ramps. I see escalation. I see the US continuing to be punitive with sanctions and the like. I think that we have to do some of that in order to bring manufacturing back, because the reality is that when you're in a Cold War with with a known adversary who right now controls basically all of the globe's manufacturing, you simply cannot let that be. And that if we don't show that we have the ability to bring up our manufacturing base, China's going to know that they're in a better and better position by the day. I think we'd be in a much darker position if China's economy hadn't gotten weakened. So yeah, we've got to make moves right now to shore up our manufacturing base, but that's going to continue to look antagonistic towards China as you begin to court TSMC. I'm pretty sure that is the call sign. So yeah, given that's the hotspot over Taiwan, man, this is going to be interesting. And China has for years been running a strategy of building up their allies, and America is taking right now the exact opposite approach.
Do you think that this will have long-term impact on the market itself? Like, I'm sure everybody says, yes, tariffs is a consumer tax. I understand kind of the talking points that we're hearing a lot, but I know we often talk about the free market and just some businesses should fail, some businesses should be propped up. I get that we need to bring...
Who says some business? You mean the public at large?
There are certain things for the betterment of global security that we need to bring back. So we do have those trade-offs.
Right.
But to me, and this is on the back of Trump announcing that if you get a loan to buy a car made in the USA, you can conduct interest payments from income tax. So fundamentally, he's artificially lowering the price of goods made in the USA to compete with the tariffs and the raised prices of the foreign cars that now have that 20% tax, for lack of a better term, on top of it. Do you think that would kind of muddy the water? Is that the wrong incentive to put, or is that the right directional incentive, even though, of course, everything has second and third order consequences?
Well, we have to bring manufacturing back to the US. And if one of the areas that we think is the core industry that's going to allow us to bring back that technical know-how, that manufacturing base, is the automotive industry, then this is a great move. It's going to incentivize car makers to bring their manufacturing back here. It's going to give Americans a flight from rising car prices. And this is where it is very important that people understand the difference between inflation and a given item's price going up. So BYD cars being ridiculously expensive in the US is not inflation. The entire car industry going up would certainly be inflation in the car industry. But once you realize that inflation has a 0.9 correlation to the printing of money, you realize that they are the same phenomena, but that prices will go up for reasons that are not tied to the actual inflating the money supply. Howard Lutnick did a great interview on this with the guys on the All In podcast. And he said, listen, there are going to be things that we're going to do from a tariff perspective that will make an individual product's price go up. But if you're given an American made alternative, then to say that that's inflation just isn't accurate. And I'll agree with him on that. And if they're able to pull that off, it's not that you can't get a car for the price that you would have been able to previously. It's you may not be able to get the car you want at the price. Now, whether that spins the American voter out of control and they're like, hey, I'm not here for this. I want to get my BYD car and I'm sick of you trying to force me to buy a Ford or a Chevrolet or whatever. That could be the reaction. Again, this is all a race towards the midterms. Is Trump going to be able to deliver enough wins, economic wins to the American people in the form of jobs or reduction in taxes or reduction in prices that the American people feel like, yeah, you're fighting for me and this is going in the direction that I want? Or is it going to be a lot of political maneuvering that's going to pay off maybe in 5 to 10 years? But by midterms, they're like, hey, get this guy out of here. He's making everything more expensive. He's making me buy an inferior car simply because it's American made. I'm saying this is perception, not that I'm saying American cars are inferior. But I am saying that doing this kind of thing will reduce innovation because it reduces competition. And I think that we have reason to do that, given what I said about the Cold War between America and China. But I certainly understand that could play out in a way that the public doesn't want.
Yeah. And then specifically offering the deduct interest payments from income tax, I feel like that's a cute way to kind of lower the price of something without necessarily stepping in front of, directly doing price fixes or things like that. So that is a lever that I think Trump was smart to play, doing it on the tax side versus trying to, if you have a Ford, you now pay $10,000 less. And if you buy a BMW or BYD, you now have to pay $5,000 more. So I do think it's kind of like a backdoor way to kind of help with that cost.
I don't even know if it's backdoor. I mean, he's trying to make it as front door as humanly possible. And I think this is very smart. And if you're trying to map the way that Trump thinks, he is legitimately trying to make sure that the average American has more money in their pocket in ways that he can bang on about. So his messaging is very simple. I am taxing the other guys because they have been taking advantage of us for years. You, dear American citizen, have been getting ripped off for years. And all the presidents before me, including first term me, were not doing nearly enough to address this issue. I'm going to do that. And because I understand that that's going to make other cars more expensive, I'm going to give you increased reasons to buy American, because we're going to not only make the other thing more expensive, we're going to make the American thing even cheaper than it was before. So you're not losing, you're winning, as long as you don't mind buying American-made goods. Now, in a populist moment, there's a lot of logic to that. And I think that the way that people are going to respond is if you don't already hate Donald Trump, because if you hate him, nothing's going to matter. But if you don't already hate him, this is going to be a win.
And they're trying to keep winning by getting activist judges out of this. Is weird, and it's rubbing me the wrong way. So I'm just going to read the headline, and we can get into we can talk about it. But Elon tweeted, he's excited to announce our first $1 million award for supporting our petition against activist judges in Wisconsin. Next $1 million award will be announced in 2 days. This is from his America PAC. This is the same PAC that he used during the election to incentivize people to register for vote in certain swing states.
Yeah,
so,
you should read the original post from, is it just America's our call sign?
At America.
Wow, not bad.
Scott A. from Green Bay, Wisconsin is the first $1 million spokesperson for signing our petition in opposition to activist judges. Stay tuned between now and April 1st for more surprise announcements from Wisconsin. So the petition in opposition to activist judges. Judges should interpret laws as written, not rewrite them to fit their personal or political agendas. By signing below, I'm rejecting the actions of activist judges who impose their own views and demanding a judiciary that respects its role interpreting, not legislating.
Okay, so your instinct to hate this certainly aligns with my instinct to hate this. And I will be very curious to see what people say in the comments, because this one just seems crazy to me. I hated it when he was doing it during the election, him being Elon Musk. And I am a fan of Elon Musk in terms of what he's done in the business world. I'm excited to see him get involved in politics. I'm hyper aware of how much people hate him. I'm hyper aware of how much hate I get for speaking well of him. But this, I hated then, I hate now. I agree with the statement in this petition. Judges should interpret laws as written, not rewrite them to fit their personal or political agenda. That is correct. That is the role of the judiciary, is to say this is what the Constitution says. And given that they couldn't account for every conceivable edge case that we could imagine, we've got the legislative branch to tell us whether this stuff matches the laws as written or not. That's what they're meant to do. You don't want them inserting their own political bias. However, giving people a financial incentive to take action, to sign the petition, optically is so gross. Mm-hmm. It's so gross as to not be worth doing. Using your platform to draw attention to something, I love that the most. But giving people a financial incentive to do it, it hits me wrong on 1,000 levels. So I would very much love if they stop doing this. This feels like, well, money's allowed in politics, so let's just find more and more ways to put more and more money into politics. If we can all agree that it's gross, I want to see us all moving in the exact opposite direction, trying to get money out of politics, calling it out when people are doing it, not doubling down. Now, deal with the world the way that it is, not the way that you wish it would be. So I get it when the other side is doing it, but I hate it. I want to see this stop on both sides of the aisle.
I don't mean to be an extremist. I am not Captain Founding Fathers. They didn't include black people or women in all those nice statements. So by no means am I saying those guys were perfect. But what I am saying is we have three branches of government for a reason. And that's why Congress can do what they want. And then the House has to say what they give their opinion. The president can do what it wants, but it has to submit to the Senate. And, and if both of those guys get on the same page, guess what? That's when the judges come in and say, hey, guys, maybe you guys are there's three branches for a reason. If Trump is really adamant about whatever law or bill that he's trying to pass and all the local judges say no, kick it up to the federal level that him and Biden, every other president gets to appoint. And then the people that you appointed in the past or now still say no, then you got to kick it up to the Supreme Court. So we already have levels and foundations and outlets for people to advocate for bills and things that they want to get passed. To me, this is skipping the line. I know better. You guys don't. I have a bunch of money. Let's just get these guys out of here so that way they can get out of our way and we can speed this process up.
I agree with that in the abstract. We do, however, have the issue of when we see activist judges, what is going to be the method that we begin to root that out? And so my complaint is there should be a process for that. There is a process for that. You can impeach a judge, but you have to be very careful that you're not just doing that because you don't like their take. Getting people aware of what's going on, getting the American people to weigh in on whether they think this is activist judges or not, I think is fantastic. And I want people to look at that, and I want the American people to decide if these are judges that they want to see continue or if they think that people are overstepping, and then the process can play out the way that it's meant to be. I don't remember the exact numbers that you have to impeach a judge, but there's a process and we should go through that. And again, if we as the people look at that and say, okay, this falls into that, then you lobby you lobby the legislative branch to get them to take action. Fantastic. But putting money into it is where this begins to break apart for me. So I don't want to be Pollyanna and say that I don't get the marketing aspect of it all. I don't want to pretend that I don't understand that this is anything other than just a petition. It's just a petition. So much like paying somebody to register to vote is not the same as paying them to vote in a certain way. You're just saying, hey, I'll take my chances. I just want people to be registered. I still think it's terrible. I get that this is just a petition, but I still think in a world where not everybody, where there is such a groundswell of resentment around the amount of money that's in politics, this just further exacerbates that wound and it just won't let it heal. So anyway, my one appeal to the American people is we need to get money out of politics on both sides. I would love to see that become part of the conversation here as well. Is like, we've got to separate these things out. Either the American people care enough to speak up about this thing, or they don't, and we're using money to make them care about something that inherently they just don't think there's a big problem.
Yep, Citizens United. We need to get it out of here. This next story, I thought I was watching Nintendo Direct. I was like, oh, this is the new Metro Prime. Nope, this is modern warfare in real life. So Epirus and Palantir signed up to do microwave drone defense technology, which pretty much is kind of like an EMP that you direct at them. I know, Tom, you always have this scenario of like 15,000 drones come and they all just drop a little bomb. And if you do that, you could take out a base, you could take out a state, you could take out a city. And this weapon literally guards against that. It's pretty much, it looks like a flat panel and it just kind of zaps anything.
Literally microwaves them to death.
Anything in that anything electrical in that direction, full stop, it stops. So this is the future of weapon technology. It's interesting to me. I think it's, the sci-fi action movie kid in me is loving this because we always were wondering when we're going to get the laser weapons and all these other things. So it seems like we're slowly getting into that direction. What's your opinion on it?
It will always make me sad that pornography and warfare are the things that generate the most advances. But the reality is that pornography and warfare generate advances. And so seeing this stuff come to fruition, this is the cat and mouse game that will forever be played. This makes me think about AI, and people are worried that it's going to be used by the bad guys. It will, but it will also be used by the good guys. Same with drone technology. We will continue to innovate. If we play our cards right and don't try to out China, and instead we out America, China, I think that we'll be able to create some absolutely breathtaking innovations in the space of warfare. I think one of the most interesting things about this story for me is getting people to look at some of the best and brightest that made just an absolute shit ton of money in the tech boom of Silicon Valley have turned to weapons. You've got Peter Thiel, part of the PayPal mafia, one of the first, if not the first investor in Facebook. You've got the guy that created Oculus Rift that ended up getting purchased by Meta, Lucky Palmer, both of them going down the weapons path. If you see, I'm blanking on his name right now, but the CEO of Palantir, Alex Karp, maybe, I think that's correct.
Yeah.
Like hippie background, like just not the guy you would expect to go into the military. This is the moment that we're in. And these were guys that were very clear-eyed about what was happening long before people started talking about it, thinking from first principles, understanding where this is headed and saying, okay, we have to head this off at the pass. And so I am admittedly given a lot of comfort by the fact that the greatest innovators of our generation, some of them, are realizing, hey, we've got to be protective of America. We've got to go in and make sure that we ourselves are prepared. I'll put a period there now, starting a new paragraph. When I look at the difference in the response between Europe and the way that they're responding to what's going on there with Russia, and it's like stockpile food and water, banning ninja swords. A real headline, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, said we're banning ninja swords. That's their response. The US response is fuck around and find out, building these incredible weapons, innovating on that front. Now, for the average person, I do not expect that to be a very popular take, because I think people would much rather pretend that they don't live in a hyper-violent world. But given that we do live in a world where there's no final judge to go to. The only final judge is, I can stop you from fucking with me. Seeing this level of innovation is comforting, if nothing else.
But on a somber note, there was a mass stabbing that happened this morning.
Have we been able to get any more information? As of the time that we're recording this, it seems unknown. The only, in terms of what happened, there is a current unverified claim that the person that did it might have been part of the Wagner group. I think everybody's initial, like, if you look at all the memes that were popping off in the feed, it was all an assumption that this was going to be an Islamist extremist. So I don't know if that ends up playing out. Certainly the Netherlands have had their problem there. It's unknown at this time, but the one thing coming off in the feed anyway was that it was somebody tied to Wagner. It's all super unconfirmed. Definitely a breaking news environment.
But at least 5 people have been stabbed, so wishing the best for them. It's just, this isn't funny, but like mass stabbing is just a crazy headline to me.
Well, what I hope people take away from that is that people are going to find a way to kill other people. Now, if you look at the numbers, America just kills the most. Yeah. So let's not fool ourselves into thinking that having all the weapons that we have does not have the second and third order consequences of you can do a lot of damage with a machine gun that you can't do with a sword, but people will find a way. And that's why the talk of like banning ninja sword, like, did nobody stop him? Just saying it like that is so stupid. Swords don't kill people. Ninjas kill people. So the reality is that if you want to stop this kind of thing, then this is going to take a better police force. This is going to take surveillance to find out, okay, where is this going on? Having quick response forces, addressing whatever the underlying issue is that's creating the violence. So yeah, I don't think you're ever going to get violence to zero. I've lived in America far too long to think that that's a reality. But their response just strikes me as unserious. We'll get right back to the show in a moment, but first, let's talk about where your money goes. Most people work hard, deposit their paychecks, and somehow end up wondering why there's nothing left at the end of the month. Those random Amazon purchases, food delivery habits, and unused subscriptions are invisible money leaks sabotaging your future. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's not just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center that gives you total visibility across all your accounts, investments, and goals in one place. Over 1 million households have already made the switch, and the Wall Street Journal just named it the best budgeting app of 2025. You can even share access with your partner or financial advisor at no extra cost. take control of your finances today. Use code THEORY at monarchmoney.com to get 50% off your first year. That's half off at monarchmoney.com and use code THEORY. And now let's get back to the show.
100%. It's unfortunate. But in lighter news, AI had one of its biggest days yesterday. You could tell by our thumbnail that is Studio Ghibli'd out. That was kind of the number one thing that came out yesterday, but there were so many other innovations.
Volume, but in terms of like depth of
that's what I mean. There were so many actual like breakthroughs that happened, but it was just people wanted to make memes all day. Internet. So Google dropped Gemini 2.5, their most intelligent AI model ever. To your point that you made in the last episode, we're just going to keep leapfrogging. So when this company just released their next breakthrough, this other company's racing, we are at like a 9
it's just
company sprint at this point.
How fast it happens.
It's nuts.
Like this is what 300% year over year improvement looks like. It's almost a percentage point a day. That means, dude, in like 2 weeks, you're at 10%. That's noticeable, which is why it feels like, man, it's almost a full-time job just to keep up with the innovations that are coming out. I literally can't test everything that comes out. There's just too much of it between running a company and living a normal life. It's like, man, as much time as I put into really trying to be at the cutting edge of this from and like I'm actually experiencing these things, you can't. It's just coming out too fast. Man, it is only the human mind's ability to bury one's own head in the sand and just pretend that this isn't happening that I think stops people from being so dizzy they can't stand up straight.
100%. And just as we're talking about Gemini's new drop, DeekSeek released V3, and DeekSeek broke the internet 2.5 months ago.
Which feels like a lifetime ago.
And they're already at V3 competing with models 10x their cost. OpenAI released its image generation.
Which, by the way, there's a reason that popped off. That is a step function, order of magnitude improvement. It went from creating an image. You could tell in the way that a caricature represents a person, you can tell, oh, if they have big ears, short spiky hair, black glasses, that's meant to be Tom. It went from that to like actually Tom.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And regardless of style, it could mimic the style off of 10 images. It could mimic the style. It could give you character consistency. It was startling. So I am not at all surprised that people's feeds, at one point, my feed was so like just Ghibli memes that I was like, wait, did I click inside of a post or is this actually that many people? So there was a moment that happened that people could feel that change. It's nuts.
This is the one I kind of wanted to drill down on, though. A new AI model titled ECG MLP detects endometrial cancer with a 99.2% accuracy. Now, I know that that's crazy, but the last model was at 80%. So it seems that in the time frame, 80% was a crazy amount to be able to detect cancer so much earlier. Now we're at 99.26. Like it's just getting closer and closer. It also detects colorectal. It's rectal.
It's not a fun word.
Breast and oral cancers with 97% accuracy as well. So these are the breakthroughs I like to kind of spend time on. Because yes, I love a good meme. But as much as we're making progress in vibe coding, in image generation, we're also making progress in cancer detection and some real fundamental things. So
this is where Brian Johnson and the whole Don't Die movement is coming from. I was literally thinking about this today as I'm about to go to Vegas for a weekend and shorten my life expectancy. He's like, hold on. AI is so radically transformative. All the things that have just been too mysterious for us to navigate our way through historically are about to be knowable. I don't know if AI was used, but they recently mapped the mitochondrial system in the brain, and partly because it looks like Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia are going to prove to be an energy system problem. And so when you start injecting AI into these hyper complex systems that are still ultimately just about recognizing patterns, you start to realize if we can map all the patterns, we can then do interventions that will work at the N of one level, meaning a literal individual individually customized treatment for specifically you and the specific thing that you're struggling with, which will radically improve people's responses. And if you can, all you have to do is extend human life by 1.01 years for every year that you're doing the research, so that your rate of dying is surpassed by the rate of life extension. And when you see breakthroughs like this happen so fast on top of each other, I mean, this is like the fourth or fifth medical breakthrough I've seen in the last 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. So AI's as bad as it will ever be. It will never be this bad again. It is only going to get better. The breakthroughs that we've gotten are like the lamest breakthroughs that we're going to get. And you're only going to get more and more and better breakthroughs. So given all of that, I actually get what Brian Johnson is trying to tell people. He's like, if you live a protective life, so if you're doing the things that would naturally make you more likely to be 85 years old, let's say, in that, for me, that would be like 36 years. So in the next 36 years, you will cross that life extension ratio, what they call longevity escape velocity, so that for every day that you live, they're extending life by more than a day. And if that's true, then you actually can get to the point where you can live forever. Now, cue a lot of religious, philosophical pushback, and I think it's actually an interesting argument to be had, but I can feel that sense of being on the event horizon of like, maybe we really can live forever. Maybe the future really is so different than the present that I can't even hope to get close to mapping what it's actually going to be like. It's pretty surreal. I make the leap of faith, and it is faith, that it's going to be awesome, but it's going to be different.
It's fundamentally changing how we think about health. And then on the other side, we have another breakthrough where Zapier introduced its MCP protocol,
I love this so
which
much.
means it allows AI assistants to interact directly with up to 8,000 plus apps. So no complex API backend integrations. It can literally hit autoplay almost. This can also fundamentally change business when you have your AI agents able to send emails, receive emails, send marketing lists. I can now see everything that happens inside of my computer being automated. It's like kind of one of those spy movies where you just see the computer doing stuff and bringing a bunch of things up and sending and receiving and doing. Like if I can send a note email, and there's Gmail, there's Outlook, there's marketing lists, there's social posts, a lot of these things can now be tied directly to an AI agent. That should fundamentally change how we do business, just like the event horizon that we're seeing with health approaching too.
This one's going to be shocking, like shocking. To walk people through what this is actually going to mean. Right now, an AI will try to do things for you, but it will, let's say, encounter your calendar app, and it'll be like, I can't see your calendar app. If you tell me what's in your calendar app, then I can help you with XYZ thing. It will go, like it can scrape things off the basic web, but if it goes to the web and it's like buried in a PDF, it'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't open the PDF. If you grab the PDF for me, then I can read it. Like Google Docs. I have to export my Google Doc as a PDF, upload the PDF. It's like all these little points of friction. They just all go away because this becomes a standardized way for AI to interact with every app, basically. So APIs, which has been the way that this kind of thing would have happened before, where one application can talk to another application. APIs are complicated. They're not impossible, but you're going to need a tech guy to go in and be like, okay, let me figure this out. But like with websites, you don't need that. So if you're building a website, the website knows, one website to the next website knows if I use TCP IP, as long as I'm doing that, I'll know exactly how to go and read that website. Everything's going to display perfectly. And so if I'm building a web browser, I just know how to read TCP IP, and everything's going to be fine. And now they're bringing that to AI. And so AI agents will be able to do anything and everything. And I don't know if you plan to show this, but we came across a post earlier where a guy who had been previously telling people that, hey, given the AI future that we're headed towards, you really should learn at least a little bit about coding. And now he's like, nope, hard pass. You do not need to learn how to code. And so this is Chamath Palihapitiya responding to that guy saying, I know. So it was Amjad Masad said, I no longer think you should learn to code. And then he has this whole breakdown of why. And then Chamath said, unfortunate but accurate. The engineer's role will be supervisory at best within 18 months. Building tools for them will be roadkill for the model maker's product roadmap. I think a better way to say that is model makers will make roadkill out of any tools that you build that require somebody to know coding. It's just all going to be automated, man. You're just going to tell an agent, go do this series of things. And now with this protocol, it'll be like, yeah, I can interface with anything that has integrated this protocol, which will be in very short order everything.
Full stop.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those, I'm going to sound like a broken drum, but it's like the rate of change is so extreme. It is only because people are just trying to live their daily life, have fun with their kids, do good at their job, get laid a little bit, that they're not noticing. Like it is unprecedented in human history. And to give you an idea, there was a moth that when the Industrial Revolution happened, went from white to like dark gray because there was so much soot in the atmosphere. And that's how fast it adapted. This is going to move so much faster than something like that. Like this is the rate of adaptation that we as a human species will have to deploy to keep up with this is basically impossible. And so there will come a day we're going to have to reckon with that, where disruption to jobs, even if it creates more jobs, those jobs will be so foreign that all the people that lose their jobs from the today stuff are going to be like, wait, hold on, what? Like imagine over the last 20 years for sure, maybe you'll grant me 40 years, more and more people have been pouring into coding. Computer science, baby. Gone. 18 months.
They just told the coal people to learn to code. And now the coal people are like, wait, you took my coal and my code?
Yes. Yeah. All in one life, man. So it's going to be awesome, I say, as an act of faith, but it's going to be disruptive.
In lighter news, let's put our tinfoil hat on. That's going to protect us.
Yo, this is crazy.
All right. So we got two stories in Conspiracy Corner today. First.
You're putting this one full conspiracy corner.
I'm putting a full conspiracy story.
I don't know that I put full conspiracy, but.
Argue with yourselves in the comments. I'm not doing it. All right.
We need to talk about your online security. Your password, the one you use for your banking, your email, and your social media, might be up for sale on the dark web right now for less than $1. Cybersecurity is a huge concern for me, especially as a game developer. I'm all too aware of how many points of vulnerability we have, and here is why. One breach is all it takes for hackers to access everything you own. That's why I'm excited to partner with RoboForm Password Manager. RoboForm creates and manages strong, unique passwords for every site you use. One click and you're securely logged in. No memorizing, no compromises. Consider RoboForm your complete digital security system. It autofills forms, securely shares access, and monitors your accounts for weak and breached passwords. The next cyber attack is coming. Protect yourself. Click the link in the show notes and get 60% off your first year with RoboForm. Stop making it easy for hackers. Get RoboForm now. Now, let's get back to the show.
Joe Rogan had a guest that shattered a couple of vaccine narratives. So Dr. Suzanne Humphries, author of Dissolving Illusions, reveals what really made all these polio cases disappear after the vaccine was introduced. She also just talked about the evolution of the pharmaceutical industry, how laws against lawsuits and holding them accountable changed throughout time. So it wasn't 3 hours about why vaccines are bad, but the shape of the industry, where it went, and some of the things that came out from those different legislations that happened.
Yeah, so my takeaway here is almost completely unrelated to the vaccine thing, because I would say right now, I have no idea. Vaccines probably cannot be thought of something as monolithic. You have to go in. Some are super helpful. Some are unnecessary. Some are, thank God we had them and changed the course of human history. And others are like, yeah, that was probably a money grab. I'm going to guess it's going to be something like that. What I think is so powerful about this is intimated by the title of her book, the idea of dissolving illusions. The thing that made me excited about this is not that people are talking out about vaccines. It's that the public debate is coming back. And during COVID, there was such a ferocious closing of the Overton window that I think we did a massive disservice to humanity by acting like science is a known thing instead of a known process. Mm-hmm. Science is the act of falsification. It's saying, I believe this thing to be true, and I'm now going to run a process to figure out if it is or isn't. I'm actively trying to say this thing isn't true. Now, the question is, why would you ever want to do that? Why would you go out of your way to be like, this thing isn't true? Because all progress depends on you dissolving the things that you have wrong. And the reason dissolving is the right word is we all build a scaffolding that our worldview is clung to. It's what I call, you look up into the night sky and instead of just seeing random stars, you see constellations. But those constellations aren't real. It's us drawing pictures on a bunch of random dots. But if the pictures that we draw allow us to navigate the open sea at night with no landmarks whatsoever and cross thousands of miles of open ocean, there's utility to it, even though it is not objectively true. That's science saying, no, not that constellation. It was helpful, but it's not as precise as this. And that process of being like, there's a better way, there's a better way, there's a better way, gets you from constellations to GPS and satellites. And if you don't understand it as a process of falsifying the things you believe, of actively seeking disconfirming evidence, you derange the whole apparatus. And I shudder to think how many millennia we have been trapped inside of an elite group of people telling us this is the right way to think. The scientific revolution began to unwind that, but we were still putting people in jail and killing them. And Socrates was forced to drink hemlock, boys and girls, because he absolutely refused to back off and say, yeah, you're right. I'm going to stop encouraging these kids to think for themselves. Like crazy, literally put him to death because he was challenging the orthodoxy. And I don't know how many people we locked up because they said things like, the earth is not the center of the universe and we revolve around the sun. So once you understand that science is the process of saying, I know there's something wrong with my thinking. The world's awesome. So we've gotten this far, but there's something wrong. And if I can figure out what's wrong, then I can get a little closer to the truth. And the truth allows me to innovate. And innovation is how we pull people out of poverty and we lower the mortality rates and all of that stuff. But man, COVID really brought a couple things together. One, the human propensity to want to control the narrative. Two, that social media is making that virtually impossible. And now this moment to me is not a yes vax, no vax. This is a everything needs to be subject to the scientific method, the process of falsifying things, of letting people argue in public, of calling bullshit on anybody that's like, you can't say that, you can't talk about that. And even when we were talking about this today during the live, which boys and girls, if you were watching this, I hope you will join us for the lives. They were coming in and saying, Tom, you can't, don't even show this conversation. Don't talk about this. This is dangerous. And that's a collision of values. To me, the most dangerous thing you can do is tell people to shut up. Now, I get it. It's messy. You're going to have people arguing for things that are patently untrue. And you're going to have to go through that process. I think the right way is, instead of saying this is the narrative that we're going to allow to be out there and we're going to silence all dissenting voices, instead, because you need a filtering mechanism of some kind, rather than that filtering mechanism being expertise, I would advise people to say cultural awareness should be the thing that we use to get our experts to look at it. Now, I'm not going to say anything other than, so I'm not going to ask people to agree on who the experts are. Anybody should be able to talk about it. Over time, people that have a history of being able to connect dots in an effective way, they will rise to the top. But those people are going to be limited in their bandwidth. And we saw this play out with the Terrence Howard thing. And I was super excited when I saw Eric Weinstein go on and talk about it. I'm sure many people were haranguing him. I privately was asking him, please, speak on this. And I have to imagine that people like him, all the big brains in the world that are like, listen, I only have, there's only a certain number of things that I'm going to be able to talk about and really do a deep dive on. And I think the wisest path to follow is, what's the thing that has all the cultural energy? And if flat Earth is the thing that has all the cultural energy, then take the time to debunk it. Don't just be like, oh, they're dumb, they're dumb, they're dumb. If vaccines really are the greatest thing ever, it has the cultural awareness. Take the time to go through and say, this is why this doesn't make sense, and fight for your ideas. And given that the very thing that has allowed us to innovate and make progress is the act of falsifying something, don't get mad when people are like, this vaxes are bullshit, this is terrible, you're killing the kids, you're giving them all autism. And you think, fuck, like, hold on, that isn't true. Great, then show that it isn't true. But don't be mad when people try to falsify something. So I think despite all the messiness of this era of the velocity and volume of information, that it is way better than these stagnant top-down narratives that are under control.
Well said. Counterpoints and everything. I was about to push back, and you kind of hit them as you were going through it. So
there we go.
I love that. All right, story number 2. Argentina is releasing all secret documents about Nazis in South America after 1945.
This one is full.
Both CIA and FBI reports confirm that Adolf Hitler escaped to Argentina after the war and lived until the late 1950s.
Supposedly.
So you're telling me, Tom, all these blonde hair, blue-eyed Argentinians,
they're Nazis? I'm definitely not saying that. And the funny thing is, Hitler there with his nice dark hair. So this is something that we're talking about because it has 4.7 million views and counting, not because I think that it's true. So I'll be very interested to see, hey, let the paperwork come out. But just to be clear, if I'm going to community note this, I'm going to say there's pretty widespread current consensus, very open to being falsified. But there's current consensus that Hitler shot himself in the head in a fucking bunker in Germany. And that's just that. So I'll be super curious to see, but I have a feeling this is a bit like the JFK files. There's going to be a whole bunch of like whatever. And I think it's pretty widely accepted that a lot of Nazis did make it to Argentina. So we shouldn't need it to be Hitler to be like, yo, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, I would be utterly shocked if we see credible CIA and FBI reports that are just like, yeah, Hitler's there for sure, full stop. I doubt it. Plus, man, listen, I know people can be a little bit skeptical about the Jews, but one thing they're real fucking good at was hunting Nazis. And so I have a feeling, why do you scoff at that?
Like I thought of Inglourious Bastards, the Quentin Tarantino movie, when you said that.
Oh, yes.
That's where my mind went with hunting Jews. When you said hunting
Jews, they didn't hunt Jews. Yeah. The Jews hunted the Nazis. So read, I think it's called Rise Early and Kill. That's a great one. I'm forgetting some of the other books that I've read on this topic, but they were like, yo, if you killed a Jew, we are coming for you. And there have been few groups more diligent in their efforts to seek retribution than the Mossad. It's so I have a feeling if Hitler had been chilling in Argentina, they would have found him.
A daily reminder that we got Hitler files before we got the Epstein files. That's all I got.
Bro, like the whole Epstein files, do you think we're going to get them?
No. We're talking about Hitler files right now.
Redact.
Yes, they're burying that.
That's crazy.
Trump's going to come out, okay, crazy. Aliens live here. My bad. They were in the oceans the whole time. I know aliens. They're the best aliens ever.
Never seen anything like it.
They like
huge.
Me. They voted for me. They said we can't believe your landslide victory. That's why we came out of hiding.
I'm so sorry that I can't do impressions, but alas,
that's going to happen before we get those Epstein files.
All right, everybody. If you're not already watching the lives, you're going to want to start. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care. Peace. If you like this conversation, check out this episode to learn more. The Trump transparency train continues, intentionally or not, to pull back the curtain on how the government actually works. Between the horrific DoD leak and an EO ordering the declassification of the Russia Crossfire Hurricane investigation, we are getting an unprecedented...